Lawmaker launching a new push now for an investigation into last year's Benghazi terror attacks. Texas Senator Ted Cruz sending a letter to his colleagues requesting their support for a joint select committee to investigate the attacks that left 4 Americans dead, including U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens. And Senator Cruz joins me now. Good to see you, Senator.
Gretchen, it's very good to be with you.
So you want to have another investigation. You want to honor the lives of these 4 men who were killed. What do you need to find out?
Well, Gretchen, it's been over a year now since that tragic attack, and there's still a whole lot of questions we don't have answers to. We don't have answers as to why, when there was report after report of radical Islamic terrorists that were going to target the Benghazi consulate, that were going to target the ambassador, why security wasn't put in place, why we didn't strengthen the security. We don't have answers as to why, once those attacks started, military assets weren't deployed. We didn't know when those attacks were going to end, and yet, as best we can tell, the administration did nothing to send in military support to save those men whose lives were in jeopardy. And we also don't have answers as to why the administration for weeks persisted in telling the American people a story that was patently false, that erased the fact that it was radical Islamic terrorists behind that attack. 4 Americans gave their lives, and unfortunately right now, Democrats in the Senate are blocking, in a partisan way, any effort to uncover the truth of what happened in that tragedy.
But we've had hearings through the House on this, and so what sort of progress do you think you'll be able to make by trying to do this in the Senate?
Well, we've got 25 senators who've come together in the resolution that I've introduced that calls for a joint bipartisan select committee. And the difference of a select committee, right now, we've had a series of congressional hearings on the House. But the problem with congressional hearings, when you have committees that are committees of general jurisdiction, it is that those committees are unable to be focused and systematic and follow the evidence. You end up having one politician after another that typically has 3, 4, 5 minutes to ask a few questions, and then it moves on to the next one. The model we need to follow instead is an independent, bipartisan select committee with one mission: get to the bottom of what happened in the tragic attack at Benghazi. And the difference there is you have a chief counsel who is essentially the lead prosecutor, who can systematically follow the evidence, follow the truth and the evidence wherever it lies.
Okay, Senator, I want to draw your attention to Obamacare right now, because Jay Carney just had his briefing where he said this McKinsey report, this consulting report that went to the White House in March, he's now saying that the president was briefed on recommendations made by that consulting firm, but that they never, I guess, believed that it would be as disastrous as it was 6 months later. Your response to the fact that the president may have known about this report?
Well, unfortunately, Obamacare was sold to the American people under false pretenses. From day one, the basic trade-off in Obamacare is, in order to extend insurance to roughly 15 or 20 million people who didn't have insurance, what Obamacare does is jeopardizes the private health insurance of 190 million Americans. And that was a conscious decision they made. As we know, over 5 million people have already had their health insurance canceled because of Obamacare. The next thing that's coming is we're seeing more and more doctors and hospitals dropping out of Obamacare. And so more and more Americans are going to discover the doctors they like, they trust, they need, they can't access.
It's interesting because that was also a promise made by the president. He doesn't claim that anymore, but it's my understanding it's still on the White House website. Not to mention that when the employer mandate also kicks in, we could see another shoe drop. Senator Ted Cruz, thanks much for bringing us your news about Benghazi. We'll continue to follow that story. Thanks much, Senator.
Gretchen, thank you for having me.
So why